Ladies and gentlemen, we have Ken Korak, and we call him the face. We call him the voice of the Athletics. Ladies and gentlemen, for your viewing pleasure and listening pleasure, the face of A's Television, the great Glen Kuiper joins us. Glen, how are you?
Good, Tony. How are you?
I'm fired up to have you
are.
on.
You are. You know, Johnny and I are sitting here getting ready for the game, and we're locked in on you today because you are just in fuego.
So
awesome.
So how is it that you are slumming with us radio people today?
Hey, you know what? I just we're trying to build the resume a little bit, do some radio. No, actually, you know what? I mean, it's I've always kind of wanted to get the radio thing as well. See if I can do it. See if I can be any good at it. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it with anybody. I just and there's some games here that Johnny sit here by himself, the poor guy. So I thought I'd help him out. So it's fun. We had a great time yesterday. We're gonna have a great time today. We're doing a game next Tuesday in Tempe. So it's fun, and it's a good way to kind of get yourself ready for the season.
Yeah, you've done radio for us in the past. I remember being down at Petco Park when we were taking on the Padres at one time.
A little bit, yeah. I've done a little bit, but I want to. It's anybody who thinks TV and radio announcing is really not that different, as I am finding out it's very different, and I want to be able to. I'd like to be able to do both. So the best way to do it is to just do some games down here in spring training. So.
Yeah, it's great to have you on because it really just kind of gets you going for the season.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, how many times? I mean, you guys would normally do on TV one game, and then all of a sudden, here's 150 or whatever. I mean,
well, yeah, we do. We're doing Saturday on TV, and then one of the Bay Bridge games. But you're right. It does take a little time to just kind of get back into broadcast. You almost need a week, 10 days of doing, a game every day to where you get back into that full flow. Plus, there's a lot going on in spring training with lots of players. I mean, the A's still have 41 players in camp, and there's a lot of new guys, and you really want to see these guys. You want to, see their swing, see how they play, see how they pitch. There's just a lot going on. So it is important for us as announcers to just be here, even if it's watching batting practice. But when you get to do a game, that's even better. So listen, it's spring training for the announcers as well.
Well, I just want to let you know I'm there in spirit because once again today here in the Bay Area, it's miserable and raining. So I'm wearing my press pass from Arizona. Nice. I'm wearing my spring training shirt. It's like I'm with you there in the press box.
Yeah, it's a nice day. You know what? It's going to be about 75, between 75 and 80. So it's going to be a nice sunny day down here. So we're looking forward to the ball game.
I thought I'd say this. It's snowing again, and that's not a good thing.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable! Yeah, I mean it's raining hard right now, right?
Yes, it's miserable. It's after just being there the other day, it is it's a different world. You're a former middle infielder. I was just talking about it. I got these notes that show that teams that get better, we want to talk home runs and we want to talk about all this fantasy stuff, but the teams that get better, there's one constant. Their run prevention improves dramatically. There is just something about playing fundamental defense. It's your pitchers got to help too. They got to keep the ball in the yard and not get lit up. But playing defense is one of the ways you can get better really fast.
Well, and it's been that way since baseball started, right? I mean, that's a constant. But I think it's also something that maybe from a fan's perspective and maybe even from an announcer's perspective, the defense gets overlooked a little bit because you always think about home runs and for pitchers, you want strikeouts and that's fun, right? Fans love that stuff. But when you get right down to it and you dig in a little bit, run prevention, it may be the most important thing. Right? Because you can have a good offense, but if you got a leaky defense, where does that put you? Kind of right back to 500. So, Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of different things that go into run prevention, right? It's not just fielding and throwing. There's where you putting your guys, and now with the shift gone, and are the pitchers pitching, to location. So there's a lot of little things that go into it, but absolutely, it's something that I almost wish we would try to talk more about, because it is so important, but it just does sort of get overlooked in the game of baseball, because baseball is so statistic related, and most of those statistics are offensive statistics. You just don't see a lot of defensive statistics.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever broadcasted or played on a team that won and was bad defensively?
It's very hard. Yeah, I agree. It's just it will catch up with you at some point. The only way you can really maybe get around it is if you just score a ton of runs, maybe have a lot of strikeout pitchers, but even that, it's going to catch up with you at some point. It doesn't mean it's going to turn a really great team into a bad team, but I think it's really hard to be a great team if you don't have a decent defense.
One of the interesting stories really happening right now, and it's not one that's going to get headlines. It's not going to end up on MLB.com on players to watch or anything, but it's just what's happened with Kevin Smith, right? He comes over in the trade, gets hurt, doesn't play well, goes back down to AAA, continues to play awful. I mean, Fran Reardon's manager told us, yeah, he was brutal, but all of a sudden at the end of the year, he caught fire, and it was like he was Barry Bonds or Babe Ruth. I mean, he's hitting a home run every single day. He was red hot. So you're like, okay, what is it? Well, he comes to spring training. He continues to be red hot. He can play third. He can play short. He can play second. It's a dilemma for the A's, but it's a good one to have, right? That you have this guy. Yeah, could you send him back? I don't know what his options are. Look it up, Cody. But right now, the way he's playing, he's really forcing the front office's hand.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And even today, Townie, he's playing shortstop, starting at shortstop. So there may be something to that. And I'm not saying, hey, Kevin Smith's going to become our everyday shortstop, but, we know the Nick Allen situation. Great defense. Is he going to hit enough? That's the question with Nick Allen. Nobody's dismissing that. Could Aledmus Diaz play short? How often could he play short? Is he an everyday shortstop? Probably not. He can certainly fill in there. Maybe there's a spot there for Kevin Smith, right? Maybe you want a right-handed hitter over at third with Jace Peterson, right? Who's a left-handed hitter. So maybe there is an opening for Kevin Smith. So this 2 weeks is going to be huge. And for Kevin Smith, every at-bat, every inning is going to be important for him. But I do think there could be the door could be cracked open a little bit for Kevin Smith in the next 2 weeks.
Isn't it fascinating?
But again, today he's at shortstop. So
yeah, we knew that they were Peterson and Smith were both going to be in the lineup today. And it's like, this thing is getting interesting. I don't think a lot of people have paid that much attention to it. Definitely getting interesting. But isn't it fun when you look at spring training? We always think about guys are trying to get in shape, guys are just trying to get ready. On certain teams, every single outing for a pitcher, every single at bat, you're fighting for your career.
Yeah, and I think what I like to do in spring training, and Johnny and I talked a lot about it yesterday, is now we're 2 weeks away, from the start of the season. Let's look at the battles that are out there for the A's. And we talked about center field yesterday with Ruiz and Pache. Pache's playing today. That's very interesting right there, because we know what Ruiz can do with the speed. Is he going to hit enough? A big part of a big trade, that's important. Pache doesn't have options left, so center field, who's the fifth starter? We saw Muller yesterday pitch pretty well and stretch out into 60 pitches. And now you have a Kevin Smith situation. Is there a spot for him? So now you start kind of weeding out guys, sending them back to the minor leagues, and then these position battles really come into play, into the forefront, that you can watch for the final 2 weeks. So that's what's kind of fun about spring training.
Hey, Muller's an impressive guy, isn't he?
Yeah. He, you know what? He may have got a little bit tired, yesterday. It looked like Mark Hotze said, let's get him to finish this thing. He couldn't quite do that, but still, over 4 innings. He's a big, strong guy, and he did pitch well. So, he's got a shot at that 5th spot, which is great to see.
Well, we don't even know how many spots. Is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 5?
True.
How many?
Well, that's another thing. Yeah. I mean, we don't know. You're right. Adam Muller has pitched great, right? So he's sort of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere, but he struggled last year. He's looked pretty good. Muller's looked good. Waldichuk has not looked good. Sears has looked good. So now you got this group, and is it possible that you're going to keep a long guy somewhere? Is that a long guy that can make a start if you need? Yeah, certainly. Is there 2 long guys in your, there's so many different ways to look at it, but the back end of the rotation, 5th guy and maybe even a 6th guy, that's something to really watch closely in these final 2 weeks.
And think about what you're saying about Adam Muller. If I take you back to last year, right, and we're watching you on NBC Sports California, those were some rough outings, and you were like, wow, this guy can't pitch at this level. We talked to him this spring where he talked about how Stephen Vogt took him under his wing about how to be a pro, how to learn how to pitch, how to do scouting reports, how to harness your stuff versus the scouting reports to get guys out. And he flipped the switch last year. But just go back to what you saw last year and what you're seeing now.
Sure, absolutely. So you stay with the guy, even though, you're thinking, man, I don't know, is the stuff there? Is the stuff there to be a starter? Can you get through a lineup 3 times? But he looked a little bit better at the end, and he certainly has looked better, this spring. So there's probably a spot there for Aller, whether it be long reliever, that type of thing. But it's nice to see a guy take his lumps, but then learn from it, listen to a veteran, and then apply what he has seen and learned or heard, and then make it work. And that's kind of what we're seeing from Aller. Now, we need to see him a couple more times to see if this is the real thing. But it is good to see. And listen, 13 pitchers, and throughout the course of a year, how many do you need? 20, 25, right? I mean, so anybody throwing well has got a chance to stick on this roster.
I mean, at some point, we might need you and Johnny to come out and throw some innings.
Well, yeah, you know what? I don't know that I would go with Johnny right now. I've seen a couple of his bullpens, Townie.
Yeah.
The stuff has not been good.
Okay, tell him be ready by September.
Yeah, 78 miles per hour, middle of the zone. It's not going to get it done, and that's where he's at right now. He's just not there right now.
It's early in spring. It's early,
but it gets late in a hurry for Johnny. You know how that goes.
So a few years back, you told me that going to Lambeau Field was going to be one of the greatest sports experiences that I will ever have, and you were dead on. Going to Lambeau Field, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I'm happy to say that I got to watch Aaron Rodgers close and personal from the field. He's one of the greatest football players, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. How are you feeling today? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm sort of resigned to the fact that he's probably gone, which is a bummer. Absolutely, it's a bummer. If you were born within the state of Wisconsin's boundaries, you are a Packer fan.
You have to be.
Just don't. Yeah, you don't. It's not going to change as you grow older. So that's why my loyalty is there. But yeah, I'm sort of resigned to it. I don't like it, but I think maybe it's time. After last year, where I thought they were going to be pretty good last year, but as it turned out, maybe they weren't as close to being a championship contender as we thought. So are they? He goes back there. Do they have enough this year? Probably not. So it's probably time. And it'll be a bummer because I like him. I know not everybody likes him. They don't like the way he is. I like a guy who stands up for what he believes in and doesn't let people sway him. But too, Townie, I always tell people, and I know it's going to sound pro-Packer, but the reality is if you can have over 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacking with two different guys, win a couple Super Bowls, and every once in a while you're going to have a little drama, I think that's worth it. And is this a little drama? Yeah, he's trying to decide what he wants to do. He's going to will probably know by this afternoon. And then it's time to somewhat start over. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but I think it's probably the right thing to do for both sides. And they're working together on this whole thing to do the right thing for the Packers and Rodgers. So I don't think it's not really a breakup kind of thing like maybe it was Favre. This is, to me, it has the makings of what could be a pretty clean split. You make a trade, he goes to where he wants to go. Packers are ready to move on. So, it seems like it could be a fairly clean split, and I wish him well if he does indeed go to the Jets.
We've been following him since his days at Cal, right?
Yeah.
So he still has a lot of fans here. And I got to tell you, being on the field, the way he throws the football, the zip that's on the football, he truly is one of the most special guys to ever play the position.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's still something there. I mean, I didn't think he played great last year. He was, he had a broken finger. I mean, but listen, he goes to New York, and if he can handle all the stuff that's going on there, I think he's still got a couple pretty good years left in him if he wants to indeed, play there. So I do. I hope he does well in New York. I hope the Jets are great and he shows that he can still play, because I don't have anything against the guy. I like him. He's kind of, does his own thing a little bit, but I don't have any problem with that. Let people do what they want to do,
All right, the last couple of years, you guys have had some tricks for us on NBC Sports California. You had the wind showing us how it's blowing in, how it's blowing out. Now you've had the opposing stadium compared to the Coliseum stadium, right? Do we have any new? Does Dallaire have any new tricks up his sleeve going into 2023?
Yeah, and you know what? We can't reveal that type of thing yet, Tony. It's
secrets.
Yeah, we like to just kind of lay it out there when it happens. So, we don't want to spoil anything, but we like to think we put together a pretty good show on NBC with a great production team. But we'll have some goodies for you. You know that, Tony. We have some goodies for you.
Well, I've said it for years. You're just not a pretty face.
Johnny's laughing. The guy that they call the nose is laughing. Can you believe that?
Hey, he doesn't have to wear makeup. He doesn't know how hard it is.
You want to see a face for radio? That's a face for radio. I love that, man. I'm so excited that Johnny's with us. He's awesome. He's going to do a great job.
No doubt. Thank God for Johnny, especially thank God this spring for Johnny. I don't know where we'd be without Johnny. He is no doubt. If Brody Brazil was the MVP of fantasy camp, Johnny, no question, is the MVP of spring training so far.
Tony, you got to understand though, you can't be the MVP of fantasy camp when you blow out your hammy in your first at bat.
He came back. He was like Kirk Gibson and came back and led his team to the championship. He's the comeback player of the year.
And you know what? I do want to tell you before we leave that Johnny said he loves coming on with you before the game, and he wouldn't mind maybe extending his segment to like 20 minutes to a half an hour every day.
This just come in from the box. They said no.
Yeah.
It's
called his way of just getting ready. He said he really likes it, and he's not afraid to do it more often. Maybe even a little post game if you need it. So he's there for you.
They said get Johnny in and get Johnny out.
Oh man.
Hey, we always appreciate it.
It's a long season, Tony. You got to laugh, man. You got to have some fun, and we're going to do that.
Well, thank you for doing this. We always appreciate it. You mean a lot to us on Ace Cast, how you've helped us all these years. And we will be listening today.
All right. Thanks, Tony. Have a good one, buddy.
The face of A's television, Glen Kuiper, joining us right here on A's Cast Live.